Hello, science enthusiasts. Welcome to Sci-Chat. It's part of our Spaces Unleashed program. Every week we bring an amazing expert to enthrall you with their area of knowledge. And we have a hilarious guest, a knowledgeable guest. She's from the big state of Texas. It's Donna Craig, food safety Donna Craig. Donna, how are you doing today?
I'm actually doing really good, thank you. I'm hanging out on the East Coast a little bit for work, so I'm freezing.
You're freezing. Well, I don't know if you saw the pictures of what happened in Red Deer today, but it's been snowing for about a day straight.
10th winter, right? 10th winter now?
I think this is like 8. We might get up to 10.
There's probably 3 inches of snow on the ground.
It's pretty ridiculous.
Maybe 5.
I don't think it's that many.
42 inches of snow right now.
It's as tall as the telephone poles, Chris.
Yes, it is. In my
so
brain.
Bunsen's happy, and Chris, I could hear the dread in your voice.
I was wearing shorts today. That was
very
sad.
Why did you do that?
Wardrobe malfunction choice today. Well, I went to the gym and then the car got broken, so the starter's gone. But it's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
It's okay. The van is getting fixed. We're borrowing my dad's truck because I've got a science show tomorrow. Okay, but we'll get started with the space. Throughout the space, we're going to be putting some things in the nest. Today's space is sponsored by The Pup Date. The Pup Date is our newsletter that keeps you updated and pupdated on what's happening with Bunsen and Beaker and all of the awesome extra stuff that our family does. What's happening on the Science Podcast, what's coming up on Spaces, and just some awesome, our favorite tweets of the week. We also highlight a scientist every week in the Pup Date. So I'll be throwing something up in the nest about the Pup Date. That is the sponsor for this week's space. The other thing I'd like to mention is keep your eyes peeled for hashtag Bunsen's birthday. We've got something very cool cooking that will be I guess announced or will be fully announced on May 7th. That's Bunsen's birthday, right, Chris?
Absolutely, May 7th.
Right. And if you go to bunsenburnerbmd.com, that's the website in our profile, there is now a timer set up that is ticking down to Bunsen's birthday. It's kind of a cool little feature. And of course, patrons and those of you subscribing to the private Twitter account, you will get a sneak peek first about what we're talking about. All right. So without further ado, let's reintroduce our guest. We have Donna Craig, a food safety specialist. Donna, how are you?
I'm great. I'm thrilled to be here with y'all tonight.
Yay. And thanks for being patient through kind of the spaces, whatever you call the front bit of that is the bookkeeping, the preamble. I'm not sure. And Donna, you were a guest on the Science Podcast, and we talked a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of food safety special things, like all of the different things you do with that. And just to start with, could you tell everybody a little bit about like what your training is in food safety, just so we have a framework?
Sure. So I originally went to university to be a psychotherapist. I ended up in restaurant world. So basically I'm a psychotherapist being paid a lot less. I'm a director of operations for a restaurant group here in the States and a very popular one in Canada. But in my food safety role, I became a proctor for a company called ServSafe, which is a huge food and alcohol safety program that's worldwide. So basically, my role is to teach future food handlers, managers, staff members the importance of food safety, but also certify those managers in that role to make sure that their restaurant is the safest possible.
Okay. I think I've muted myself. Nope, I haven't. I thought I muted myself. So Donna, with that job that you have, do you have to travel all over the place? Like you did say you were on the East Coast for travel.
Yeah, so actually, I'm pretty much on a plane every week. I try to be home by the weekend unless I'm in a region that has more than two restaurants of mine. So my region is the North. Believe it or not, I'm based in Dallas, Texas. But my region is all along the Canadian border. So I pretty much have Washington State, Montana, Minnesota, shout out Kathy, Michigan, Ohio, parts of Texas. I'm about to have South Dakota and Louisiana. So I am on the plane a lot and flying around and visiting various restaurants and people.
So when you visit a restaurant, what are some of the things that you do?
Well, funny you should mention that because that's what I'm actually in town in Columbus, Ohio, doing right now. So today I actually proctored for managers to get Serve Safe certified, which gives them food safety knowledge for the next 5 years, keeps you guys safe. But I also make sure and ensure that they're following safety and sanitation protocols. And safety is also, like situational awareness about theft or COVID or guest. And I'm also there to check brand standards to make sure that they're cooking food to spec and properly, if that makes sense. So I also project manage when there is a situation that we have an opening, and I did talk about this on the podcast with you. I start from day one of construction until the doors are open to the public of floor planning, what equipment goes where, to setting up fire inspections, health inspections. So as we say in Texas, I have a lot of irons in the fire.
Right. So it's not just food safety, though. That's one of the big things that you do. It's almost like the flow and the schematics of a restaurant.
Correct. So the table number that ends up on your check, that's done by myself or my counterpart. There's somebody who is the exact same role as mine. We are the yin and yang, the male and female of the brand. And he does the same thing in the South. And so we work together during openings, and it's quite the partnership, but we do have a lot of work to do, from the plates you guys eat on to the silverware that's ordered to the chemicals that go in the dish machine. It's a pretty big project.
Now, I guess that's the commercial side. Are there some things that's the restaurant side, right?
Correct.
Could I ask you some questions about food safety in our homes?
100%. I love to talk about food safety in home.
Right. So I'll keep the first one's really general. So the first question is, what are some things that people need to watch out for that they may not think about with food safety at home?
Well, the biggest one for me is surface sanitation, meaning like your kitchen counters or any utensil you use. You have to use the hottest water possible. It's like a scientist in a lab with their utensils, that they get boiled and sterilized with extreme hot water. It's the same for your utensils that you use to cook and eat with. But the surface sanitation is the most significant piece because of cross-contamination. And what I mean by cross-contamination is, say, for example, you are cutting and working with raw chicken over here, and then you have a vegetarian like Chris, and you're working with tofu or bean sprouts or veggies on this counter. And if you don't ensure that that counter is completely clean, you got raw chicken juice on something, and that can kill somebody with salmonella. So ensuring that your countertop surfaces and your utensils are clean is a must.
Now, we were talking to Dr. Tolson a few spaces back about, she works with an organization that looks at just like you clean your counters with chemicals, and 1 or 2 times that's okay. But if you constantly clean your counters, that's maybe something that can build up in your body. When you're sanitizing your counter, is there anything in particular that we should use? Like, is there one thing that's better than the other? Is hot soapy water good enough, or should we use something stronger?
So that's a great question. I think most people in their home or offices think for example, like a Clorox wipe or Lysol wipe is sufficient. It's actually not. It's good to kill whatever coronavirus or norovirus or any kind of virus, but it's not good for internal ingestion. So there are sanitizers on the market that you can get that technically you could drink it if you need to. I'm not recommending that. Y'all don't do that.
Okay.
But there are sanitizers on the market that you can use and sanitize your surfaces that 100% kills foodborne illnesses. So that's the one I tend to look for, Moat. Warm soapy water is great as long as you're following it with a paper towel of hot water to take that chemical off the counter behind the soap.
Gotcha. Okay. Now I know you probably can't tell us the brand name, but if we are, let's say we're at our place that we get our groceries, or we're in the cleaning aisle, it will say kills foodborne pathogen on the label. Like, that's something we can.
It should. Okay. Unfortunately, right now, if you go into most grocery markets with the supply chain issues, you're going to see a lot of chemical based because, no offense, there likes to be a fear that's spread about we got to kill everything. So the most chemical, the better. But even if you just fill up your sink about halfway with water, put about 3 little capfuls of bleach in, that does the trick. As long as you go behind it with a warm paper towel to pull out that chemical, you'll be just fine.
Right.
But there are chemicals there's the spray one, or there's, a liquid form that tells you to mix with water that is non-toxic.
Okay. Right. So the first round kills, second round cleans it so you don't ingest the chemical, kind of thing.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And Donna, for those of us with septic tanks, what can you explain maybe how bleach might not be a good thing, because it'll kill the pathogens down there that are regurgitated?
The good pathogens. Correct. So in that instance, I would look for, there's something called a quat sanitizer that a company named Ecolab makes, which is the very non-toxic, non-abrasive. That's good for septics. That's a great question, Chris, because I don't know if you guys have to use live yeast from time to time down your toilets to take care of any bacteria situation you may have, kind of like giving your septic tank some yogurt, if that makes sense. But that's a great question, because any toxic chemicals are terrible for septic tanks, especially if you live out in the country.
Yeah, we do have to watch that where we live. I don't think we ever put bleach down any of our drains. I think our bacteria is good. We've never had to worry about it dying and having to restart, but that's interesting to look. Yeah.
Usually the sump pump goes first, and then we get the alarm because it's going to come in the house.
Yeah,
so,
the joys of living in the country.
Worse when you get that backflow preventer going and you get that alarm, you're like, oh my God. So you get ready for a big mess. But yeah, no bleach down any drains if somebody has a tank out in the country.
Gotcha. That's a great point. Chris, thanks for bringing that up too.
No problem. I just I hear it and I just am like, nope.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. And there's, people who have garbage disposals too that think, oh, I can just throw a napkin down there or onions or potato peels down there. You can't. About the only thing you can put in a garbage disposal besides water or small food that doesn't have bones is like a lemon or a lime to freshen it. And ice keeps your blade sharp, but no bleach. I'm with you.
So you can't put a banana peel down a carburetor. Is that what you're saying?
That is correct. No.
I tried that
now
before.
in Seattle, they'll make you do that. Right. No, there's some states and some cities in the U.S. and I'm sure in Canada is the same way because I know y'all were one of the first to ban styrofoam in restaurants, which admirable. But there are some cities in Texas, for example, Austin, Seattle, and Washington. You have to compost everything, and they send it to the pigs in Hawaii or the pea fields. The little pea patches that everybody shares for fertilizer, which is admirable, but it's tough on a restaurant to follow up and follow through. But in your home garbage disposal, absolutely no banana peels. No.
Yeah,
and no cats either.
Yeah, the only place that's good, but the only place that you can use a banana peel, I think, is if you're driving a go-kart, Chris, and let's say a monkey is behind you, then you whip the banana peel behind you to take him out.
Yeah,
I played that game before. What do you? I can't remember what is that, like Crash Bandicoot or one of those?
No,
yeah,
it's Mario Kart.
Mario Kart. Yeah, there you go.
Wahoo! Okay. When you're at a restaurant, Donna, is there some red flags we can look at? Like, so you have all of this knowledge about setting up a restaurant and it should be set up properly and all of the safety stuff. Is there some red flags, like when you're eating out, you're like, ooh, I don't know about this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to share. It's not at my restaurants.
Right.
I'm just saying. No, yeah. I'm just kidding. But no, for me, I am tough to go out to eat with friends. It's hard for me to clock out, so to speak, because I'm the one that's like, ooh, there's a light bulb out, or ooh, there's trash on the floor. My big red flag is the first thing I do is I go to the restroom and wash my hands, which I hope everybody does, but I go to the restroom and wash my hands. And if I walk in and that bathroom's dirty, I think their kitchen's filthy. And I'll leave. So, because if you think about it, most restaurants have a standard of them checking a restroom every 15 minutes for cleanliness. So that tells me they've ignored their bathroom. So what does their kitchen look like?
Ooh.
So that is a huge red flag for me. Also, and I hate to say it because usually it's a young person that's at the host stand, but if they keep touching their face or touching their hair or playing with their phone and not engaged, I worry about safety and sanitation at tables. So that's another one for me. Or if I literally just watched a server come in from smoking a cigarette outside and went straight to the table and didn't wash their hands. Those are my red flags.
That is so interesting. It's so interesting that you have this eye where it would be tough to relax because you would catch
very hard.
You would catch the things that we would be oblivious to and be like, all right, let's get some appetizers. And you just don't know. It's probably, Chris knows this about me. Our martial arts club volunteers at the fair as security. We're not right. So it's how our martial arts club makes like bank. It's a huge fundraiser and we volunteer as security. And because I've done it for so many years, I can't relax at a fair. I'm always looking for like shenanigans and things like that. And it's the worst now. Like I can't go to a fair and just walk around and enjoy it. I'm like scanning for lost kids and those teenagers have like a backpack full of alcohol, you know? So I hear ya.
Yeah, it's the worst. And it's funny, like say if I go out with a group of 3 friends, so we're a party of 4, and if they try to sit me where I'm facing the kitchen, I always ask to turn around because then I'm totally looking the whole time and I want to be able to enjoy myself. So if I'm at least looking at the front door, I'll go, oh my God, that host didn't get to that person, in 30 minutes or something stupid like that. That's just the director of operations in me. But the food safety person, I can't look at the kitchen or I can't sit in a restaurant that has, a display kitchen, but has a giant mirror over the ceiling and you can see them cutting food. It freaks me out. I can't do it.
Sorry, I got the hiccups. Not great for a live show. 1 second here. Chris, do you have a follow-up question? I just need a second.
Well, yeah, I was gonna ask about that, because here in Red Deer we have a restaurant called Carl's Jr. and it was all in the news.
Oh my goodness, Carl's Jr. This is not all Carl's Jr.'s. I think. I don't know. I don't know anything about Carl's Jr.'s, but go ahead.
But in Red Deer, the one that we have here, there was an employee who like basically stirred the meat sauce with his arm, and he had his arm like all the way up to his elbow in it. And I would never go to a Carl's Jr. regardless, but I especially won't go to the one now because it was all in the paper. And
somebody took a picture of him with it was like almost up to his armpit, and he had hairy arms.
If you can see my face right now, I'm stunned. Who thinks that's a good idea?
I don't know.
Like, what goes through your brain that says that's a good idea? And you know, I see Indra in this space, and I was listening to her podcast last night, which was brilliant as well. And we talk about being servant leaders, and that's something I try to do in my everyday life, is to coach and impact future leaders of a restaurant. That guy would have got a walk of inspiration for me, as I like to call it. So I would have been, back in my younger years as a manager, I used to have this joke, because I had a swipe card and people would pull it and go, let's walk and talk, because that's me. Let's have a walk and talk. And now I call it walk of inspirations, and, you know, let's go chat outside, because I do like to criticize in private and praise in public. I don't think it's anybody else's business if, you know, how you're correcting a behavior, but that one I probably would have lost my mind and yelled across the restaurant if I saw that. I think the whole place would have heard me.
The guy had like hairy arms too, if I remember. Like,
oh God,
like hairy arms like me, and I'm like, oh my goodness, can you imagine?
No,
I think it was like barbecue juice or something like that.
Well, he's lucky he didn't get, if it's hot, that if he got 3rd-degree burns. I mean, it's not just the hair in there, then it's the skin and the 3rd layer of epidermis and every bit of sweat. Gross. Chris, I'm not gonna be able to sleep tonight, so thanks for that. But I can tell you stories like that, of, you know, brilliant, smart, young people who are the lifeblood of restaurants who do something stupid. So I've had a guy stick his whole leg in a hot fryer because he thought it was a good idea while the fryer was on to clean the hoods. So I know those stories, but that is, oh my God,
it was a problem.
But Chris, that restaurant survived. It's packed now all the time. I think.
Well, they fired him.
Well,
that was very public. That was very public. He lost his job. So do you see yourself like kind of like a Chef Ramsay of like Hell's Kitchen, where he goes in and he takes care of business, or no? Is that realistic?
I take care. Yes, it is very realistic. So I make jokes about bartender and God and chefs. Like, there's a restaurant joke, what's the difference between God and the bartender? And then you say God doesn't think he's a bartender, which is, so chefs are kind of the same way. There's some divas that are out there in chef world, and there's some that are super servant leaders who want to show you the right way and how to get to where they're at and bring people along. Chef Ramsay, I think, is brilliant, but I believe the majority of that is an act for TV. Because when you see him in, say, a certified hospitality and restaurant trainer situation, he's very well spoken in how he likes to coach and develop people. But I think some of it is just to have a catchphrase for TV. And I have a few jokes. Obviously, I'm a big jokester. And I've told somebody before that they've put so much salt and pepper on that burger. I'm here and push it real good. And then they look at me like I'm crazy because they don't know that song. But then the older people in the group start laughing, and they're laughing all day, which is great. And I have told a few people in my lifetime to go cry in the walk-in. And I have a T-shirt that says that, go cry in the walk-in. But I want to say, especially coming out of COVID, because when I spoke on the Science Podcast with Jason, it was a couple of years ago, and we were just coming into COVID in a pretty bad way. And we had an ice storm in Dallas, and it was just a terrible, terrible time. And so right now, as I'm going back out, as the travel restrictions have been lifted in our company, and I'm going out and I'm visiting the other restaurants, I try to come from a place of grace because it's been hard to staff in this day and age. Unemployment's the lowest it's ever been. Hooray. But a lot of people have left the restaurant business because of how they were treated during COVID, and people forgot how to act to each other. So I come from a place of grace, but there are times when it comes to safety and sanitation, it's very black and white. In other areas, when it comes to guest service or how they may have handled the situation, it's gray for me. So that's a great question. I think it's a little bit of both. I'm a little Gordon Ramsay, and I'm a little bit of Anthony Bourdain.
Aw, I love Anthony Bourdain. I'm so sad about his whole thing. I watched his shows. Love that guy.
He's brilliant, and I like how he always represented the little guy. Mm-hmm. So when he got big, he never forgot where he came from, being a sous chef, working 15-hour days, where you eat where you can. You go to the bathroom when you can. Restaurant world can seem glamorous when you watch the TV shows, but it is far from it.
Yeah, very
you
tough,
have to you have to be a special kind of crazy to be in it. And I mean that in a good way. But the one thing that I personally love about restaurant world, and like I said, I went to school to be a psychotherapist, but the one thing I love about restaurant world is it's something different every single day. So I get up, I put my clothes on, I go in, but there's going to be a different situation every single day. Nothing is the same. You know, I had huge COVID outbreaks that I had to deal with. I've had, somebody who's had in a previous life in another restaurant concept, I had somebody who had hepatitis.
Oh, man.
And how do you handle that? I've had to deal with a norovirus outbreak. And then I had a restaurant in the late 1990s, early 2000s in Toronto that dealt with a SARS outbreak when y'all went through SARS. Yeah. So restaurant world is very unforgiving at times, but it's the most rewarding when, say, a family like yours comes in, who is an awesome family, from what we see on social media and the way you carry your lives. When you leave happy and you had family time together where you didn't have to cook for yourself and you actually had a moment out together, that's what makes my job rewarding. I don't know if that makes sense.
Totally makes sense. Totally. Though, Donna, I do have to confess that on my bucket list is to cook badly for Chef Ramsay and have him lose his mind on me. That is on.
I can do that for you if you want me to come up and visit you, because I am a chef. I am a trained chef. I can come up and do that for you because I have a few of them. Like, why did the chicken cross the road? Because it's still freaking raw. So I've had a few of those, where I yell, I won't go up and put 2 pieces of bread on your head and call you a poop sandwich, like I've seen him do. But yeah, I get it. Just to be berated by him is kind of an honor, I think. So I get where you're coming from.
I think it's just because I'd have no skin in the game. Like if I somehow weaseled my way onto the show and he's like, okay, guys, cook a beef Wellington. And I'm like, all right, then. I have no idea. And it would just be the worst. Okay. It would be so bad.
I would put you on that show that's in the States right now. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like Rat in the Kitchen, and there's like 8 chefs, but one of them is supposed to sabotage you on purpose.
That'd be
and
me.
You don't know who it is. Yeah, that when you said Beef Wellington, I'm like, ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah. Donna, I've got a couple more questions before we open up the floor to the audience. And if you're just joining us, we're having a lot of fun. This is Science Chat. It's part of our Spaces Unleashed, two types of live shows we do. I can't put anything in the nest. I think something's up with Twitter. I remember I was on a space earlier and they were talking about how you can't put things in the nest today. So I can't put links. I was trying and I was like, what is going on? But anyways, that's why if you're on mobile, there's nothing up in the nest. I've been trying. And our guest is Donna Craig, who's a food safety restaurant expert. So Donna, my second last question for you is about food pathogens. You've named a few. Is there one that you find that you would like to talk to us about that maybe the average person either doesn't know about or you find interesting / scary?
So for the home cook, that's another good one. There's 3 that stand out to me that scare me to death. Salmonella is the one that everybody knows. Obviously getting bad chicken. E. coli is another one from undercooked meat or eggs that can cause severe illness, including kidney failure and death. But one that gets me that a lot of home cooks overlook is botulism. Oof. And where does that come from? And that comes from dented cans. So everybody that has these canned goods or that the jars, like the mason jars, that when people pickle something and they don't have a good air seal, or even the vacuum sealed bags that are not completely removed of air, and it hits specific room temperatures for a specific amount of time, that is a bad one. And so if you ever see a dented can at a grocery store, you will always see the grocery store try to make that can like 50 cent or 50% off, or buy 2 get 1 free. Avoid and run. Do not bring home a dented can ever. And expiration dates is not a suggestion. I'll just say that. Expiration dates are there for a reason, because the longer you have food that's already been open and used, it causes contaminants to get in, such as botulism or salmonella. Jason, you and I talked about one before that was trying to be eradicated off the face of the earth, and that was listeria.
Oh yeah.
But it's making a huge comeback. And one of the things with that one, and I cannot stress this enough, y'all, you need to wash your fruits and vegetables with antimicrobial fruit and vegetable wash. And the reason being is listeria is caused by contaminated water. And you'll see it show up a lot in romaine lettuce. Believe it or not, romaine lettuce and alfalfa sprouts try to kill you more than any other wild animal will. and it's because of the bacteria in contaminated water. And I was making a joke with somebody on Twitter who had made a comment on your space, and I responded saying, back in the day, we can drink out of the water hose in our backyard and not fear lead or any contaminant or leakage. But as we grow in this country and the population grows and we run out of open space, and the runoff from rain that needs to water our crops goes through sewage plants or through chemicals from either oil fields or fracking or any of the acid rain that could be in water that contaminates your food. Listeria is a pretty nasty bug that's making a pretty big comeback.
So wash your, what about a banana? Like, it's safe on the inside, isn't it? Or should I still wash that?
You still need to wash it. So great question, because there's still contaminant on the skin, right? So if you're pulling the skin, what's the first thing you do after you peel that banana? Some people eat it with their mouth. Some people break that banana out of the stem. Well, your hand just touched it.
Well, actually, the first thing I do is I tell Bunsen he can't have any because he loves banana. So,
Oh, poor guy.
Actually, no, I'm lying. I break off a chunk that's got the gross kind of brown stemmy bit, and he gets that.
And give it to the dog. Right. Or you save it for banana nut bread. But you still like avocados, oranges, anything with a skin, you still need to wash.
Okay.
A lot of people may peel their apple and because they don't, I know someone, my mom, she's not listening right now because she's in Texas and she doesn't have Twitter, but my mom has a thing against skin on fruit. She cannot stand her apple to have skin or her plum. And I think it's the weirdest thing, but I'm not judging. So I cut the skin off her apple, but you still want to make sure it's washed. Because most of the time you're going to bring it home from the grocery store. I wash it before it goes in the fridge or on the counter. If it's one of those fruits that can sit on the counter like bananas.
That is
and
interesting.
It's only for a minute and a half. So not for very long. You don't have to rinse it with water afterwards. You just use that fruit wash and it gets off all the bad listeria, but it also gets off the pesticides that are used, which are very harmful to us as humans. I mean, a lot of people don't realize, I don't know in Canada if this is the fact, I'd have to do some research, but in Europe, genetically modified foods are banned and they're not in the States. So these foods that are being bred, which sounds crazy, but being bred just to feed Americans, some of them is pretty dangerous with the chemicals they use. So you have to be super careful.
I'm just thinking about myself as a shopper, and I always like to, pick things that are kind of from the back, because I think they're less touched by people. Like things that are less touched, I'm like, no human has touched that, but they probably have. But now I'm thinking that like the fruit that's out on the shelf, everybody's touched it. And that's just all that.
Ew.
I'm just thinking. As she was explaining.
So good thinking, because you got to think about somebody touched it to stock it in the first place, right? So when you're dealing with stock food, they're supposed to put. I'm with you in the fact that I go near the back, but that's because that's the newer product. If that makes sense, because you're supposed to rotate. And there's something in restaurant world called FIFO, which is first in, first out. So they try to put the oldest product to the front and the newest in the back. So I tend to be like you, Chris, and go for the back, but not because they didn't touch it, because someone had to touch it to put it there. And then there's people who think like you and I, who are like, I'm going to go for the back. So it's not a touchy thing, but as long as it's washed, you're fine. Most of the people who handle it in grocery stores, though, have gloves on. And in the restaurant, anything that's ready to eat, any food that's already been cooked, which means it's about to hit your plate, almost every food service industry requires you to have gloves on.
Gotcha.
It's just a matter if they wash their hands first.
Right.
Let's hope that's the case. Donna, I just have a follow-up question before my last one. So, like the dented cans that are 50% off, don't buy them. What if they're 75% off? Just kidding.
How good is your stomach?
I'm just kidding.
Saying, some people can eat it and live. I'm gonna sound like Dr. Ken Jeong that was in The Hangover, but did you die? So that's it's like driving the car with him on The Hangover.
Yes.
You don't know if you're going to live or die.
Right. But Donna, is it anything? Like I always thought it was tomato-based things that if the can is dented, then that's bad news. But if it's corn or, I don't know, peas?
It's actually anything that air can get to because the canning process is supposed to remove any of the air. I think, and this is just a personal opinion, it's not as scary around a pea as it would be more of a tomato product, but it is actually any canned food. And that goes for your dog's food. That goes for your dog and cat's food too. They can get food poisoning as well. And with a doggy or a kitty, or an iguana or whoever. If you have to have food safety for them as well, because it causes liver and kidney failure in pets. And that's the worst thing ever to watch.
Mm-hmm. I was teasing, but I had that joke in the back of my head. It was just a bit delayed. Good points, Donna. Thank you. We don't buy dented stuff, or unless it's dented by me dropping it, then I just quickly open it so Chris doesn't see that it's dented. So
yeah, and that's fine in your house. I'm just saying, don't put it back in the cabinet and forget about it, and then like 2 weeks later go, oh, I think I'm going to have some chili on this hot dog. And then you don't know what got you sick. It's just something to be cautious about. It's just another added layer of protection. Like I said, some people, I mean, you can go to Mexico, who's ever been on vacation or gone to a street vendor in a foreign country, and you're taking your life into your hands because you don't know, but that smells so good. That shawarma smells so good. I'm going to eat it. Yeah. And, you know, and you're taking that risk, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to be okay. But there are some people who could eat food left out for 6 hours and they're fine. I can look at food left out for 6 hours and I'm nauseous. But I think that's a mental thing for me.
My dad and my sister and her husband, so my brother-in-law, they hiked to the Mount Everest base camp the year he retired. So they went on this amazing trip. And in Nepal, they were eating street food the whole time, and they got, I think, some bad water buffalo or something. And my dad has a cast iron stomach. He can eat literally anything. He could probably literally eat cast iron and he would be okay. But my sister and my brother-in-law got so sick. My dad was worried they were actually going to die. Like, that's how sick they got. He had to get like some Nepalese paramedic or something that came in a horse-drawn cart and did some sketchy IV stuff on them because they were so dehydrated. Like, the story after the stories after were pretty scary. But they didn't want to worry my mom, I think, who did not go. But yeah, there you go. Because after that, they were way more careful about what kind of street meat they ate.
Well, I bet smells for them for a long time probably did them in. I mean, I think you and I talked about on the Science podcast, we both ate something once when we were younger and we've never eaten it since.
Yeah.
There's still one thing I cannot eat, and there's still one thing I cannot drink because I got so sick. So you will never in my life see me drink Bacardi rum ever again. And then there's one particular burger joint in Texas that I got so sick off of that I will never go back. But those who have had food poisoning like your brother or your sister and your brother-in-law had, but your dad didn't get, they probably thought they were having a brain aneurysm. They get the worst headaches ever. That dehydration's horrible. You can hallucinate, but you almost feel like you wish you died because it's the worst. Oh, I feel so bad for them. That's terrible.
Hey, Chris, that's what happened to me in Mexico. I was hallucinating because I got so sick. The paint,
and you were like, that painting is talking to me.
Yeah, I couldn't look at the painting in our room. The painting was going, like the painting was like, it was. Have you seen the Seinfeld episode where Jerry is thinking of his girlfriend's belly button going, hello? Like, it's this, there's this episode, and that's what this painting. Anyways, let's
well, for me, it's butter ripple schnapps.
Okay.
18
years old. Thought went down good. Oh no, did not come up good at all.
That is the worst hangover. The sweeter the alcohol, the worse the hangover. So, oh, sister, I feel you. It's true though. We've all been there on the podcast, I'm sure, and especially those in the States. There's bottles of wine called Boone's Farm, and I call it $3 chuck because it costs you $3, but you're gonna chuck. It's amazing when you're young and stupid, but just thinking about it now, I'm like, oh no.
Well, we've brought some people up to ask questions, Donna. So we brought a few people to the stage. Just a reminder, let's keep our questions to our guest on topic. So Donna, probably food safety in the restaurant business is pretty at home for you to answer questions about. Would you?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm a know-it-all. I think I know everything, which I don't. So at least I'm honest and know that about myself. But yes, food safety, restaurants, bring it.
Okay. Karen has been waiting the longest, so we'll go to Karen first. Go ahead, Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Karen has a cat profile. Karen J.
Hello.
Karen maybe has left. That's okay. She was waiting. Or Karen was waiting a while.
Sorry, Karen. Oh, there she is.
Yeah.
Hi, Karen.
I'm sorry. I hit the button accidentally. I didn't mean to hit it. I apologize.
Oh,
Quite all right.
Do you have a question, or was it an accident to come up here?
Well, it's a little off topic. I just am taking an informal survey of how many people are working are not working in the field of their college major.
Oh,
and
interesting.
Me.
Just like very few people that I'm friends with are actually working in the field that they majored in college, and I just find that so curious. But anyway, that's off topic, and I wasn't going to go there unless you had oodles of time. But I'm sorry I hit the button.
Well,
without meaning.
We can maybe.
I have oodles of time. it's Jason and Chris who may not, but I have oodles of time.
Okay.
We'll revisit that at the end, Karen.
Thank you. Yep. Thanks. Bye.
That is interesting, though. That's a great question. That would be almost like a whole discussion for another space.
100%. Like I literally paid a lot of money to go to school to not use that degree at all. My parents are proud.
Who's next, Chris? Paula, I believe.
Hi, Donna.
Hi, Paula. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing, sweetie? Listen, good evening to everybody. This is such a fascinating topic. I'm laughing because I'm relating to all the either getting food poisoning or going to Mexico. Oh man, I could tell you some horror stories about Mexico when you see a big golf cart with toilet paper coming, you know you're in trouble. But anyway,
true story.
That's a true story. But anyway, I'm kind of concerned of, like you said, with all this listeria coming up and things in romaine, like people dying eating romaine lettuces and such. And it's like, when you come home and you get that mixed lettuce in that plastic container, like, what should you really do? Because it seems like if you wash something and you got to really dry it well, because things seem to really break down quickly. So what can we do as consumers to keep our lettuces like better? I know you said something about the spray wash, but is that something you just spray on and then rinse off, or?
So good question, Paula. So there's a couple of things. There's some restaurant tricks to keep your lettuce fresh. This is going to sound really crazy to the home chef, but if you fill up a sink with ice water and you wash your lettuce, that bagged lettuce mix in ice water, and you're moving your hands around, the ice takes off most of the soil and pesticide contaminant. You can still wash it with the AFVT wash in that ice water, and all you have to do is drain it using a colander. You don't have to dry it with a towel or anything. It's going to be fresh. If you're doing this before you have dinner and you use your salad mix, all you have to do is put it in a bowl in the fridge without a lid on it, and it crisps right back up. But if you're slicing lettuce for burgers or anything, always stick your knife in ice water, and it keeps your lettuce from turning brown.
Right.
What?
Okay. Well, that's
weird trick. True story.
Yeah. Well, I remember restaurants a long time ago used to spray stuff on lettuce too to make it not go brown too. It was some kind of a solution that they used to.
That's called poison.
Yeah, I know it is, because that was back in the 70s when I worked in restaurants. So I used to go like, yeah, it was like, yeah, I know. I know, because I can relate to some of the things when you work in restaurants and you see what's going on. What's the best thing you could say? Like, I know there's always, I could ask you 1,000 questions because this is so fascinating, especially like about temperatures and stuff. But when you go out to a restaurant, like you said, there's some red flags, because I have seen, like you said, you can peek in when they have those sliding, waving doors, and you look in the kitchen, it's dirty. I look at my husband, I'm like, we're out of here, because it's creepy. So what is a thing that we should be as consumers like really aware of? I mean, cleanliness is one thing, but like you said, there's just so much you can control, but is there something too that we should be really aware of? Or like, even like, I don't know, I'm off topic a little bit again, but like that Irving guy that had that restaurant Impossible, he did one here in my town, and it aired on the Food Network, and it was so disgusting. We never ate there, but they showed the guy had like spaghetti sauce out for 2 days, and he didn't refrigerate it, and it was like
death. Instant death.
It was death. And we're like, oh my God, we were just like mortified. And we're like, what other restaurants do this? So it's like, you can't, be a predictor and see everything that's out there. But what would you say would be one point you could give us as people that go out to eat or like to go out to eat now that COVID is, hopefully going away, but maybe not. But, as I said, that we can enjoy ourselves without being too paranoid. So that's my question.
Another good question. So, not getting off topic, but sometimes when we as consumers go out to eat and we're not in the business, we're like, la, 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 look at the menu. Everything's great. I'm going to try this, this, and this. Right. So one of the things, like I said, I can't see a kitchen because I will not have a good time. I want to enjoy everything. The only time I would like a kitchen is if it's a famous chef and it's a Michelin star rated and they're plating it right in front of me, because then I'm fascinated. But that being said, if I'm watching staff come out of the bathroom when I've been in that bathroom and I haven't seen them wash their hands, or you watch them go to the dish room, scrape the plates, and turn around and not wash their hands, chances are somebody's going to have hepatitis. Restaurant workers and medical field professionals are one of the biggest carriers of hepatitis, mostly Hep B.
I can ask you one thing real quick. What really bugs me too is like I'm sure everybody can relate. Why is it when you go to a restaurant and you're having plastic gloves on and then they touch everything else, the register, everything else. And then I kind of say to them, excuse me, could you put a new pair of gloves on? Because when they go to make your sandwich or whatever, it's like they wear the same pair of gloves for everything. And it's like, I don't know, that's another thing.
Well, and that's a huge red flag. That's one I was going to bring up, especially if you go to like a sandwich shop and you see them make your sandwich, go to the register. I talked about this with Jason a couple of years ago. My favorite is when they have gloves on, you're like, great, they have gloves on. Then they take them off and then they put a new set of gloves on and they didn't wash their hands. So basically they didn't do anything. Well, you might as well not have gloves on. So glove use is super important for ready to eat foods or tongs. If I don't see tongs being used or gloves, I'm nervous. But that's me, because it all goes back to hand washing, and hitting your hands with hand sanitizer is not clean. So at all. But that was a good question about the gloves, Paula. That is a huge red flag for me.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and really enjoyed you, Donna. You're great.
Thanks, Paula. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Great question, Paula. Chris, do you know who's next?
You brought everybody up all at once.
I'm so bad. Okay, we'll go to Gertrude and then to Liz. So go ahead, Gertrude.
Hi, Gertrude.
Hi, Donna. Hi, Chris. Hi, Jason. How is everyone?
Hello, we're good.
Awesome.
Super good.
All right,
Super
Donna.
healthy.
Most important, how's Miss Kelly?
Oh my God. Well, I'm sure, and Jason and Chris will get this. You think it's the dogs that miss their humans. The cats miss them the most, because they act like they don't care that you're gone. But when I get back, I get the butt treatment. Those who have cats know what I'm talking about. They kind of give you the hightail and the butt, but look over their shoulder at you like, yeah, But then 10 minutes later, I'm suffocated. Like if I crawl into bed, she sleeps on her side of the bed. Like that's my partner. It's the weirdest thing ever. She never comes on my side of the bed. She has her side. I have mine. But she'll climb up on the pillow, smash herself up against me and act like she loves me. But no joke, she'll probably bring me about 15 fake mice, birdies, carrots, tacos to the bathroom in the shower. That's her way of saying, I know you went to work to keep me in the lifestyle of accustomed to. Here's my gift to you. She's good. Thank you for asking. She's a funny one.
She loves you. So what is...
Yeah, the dog is chill. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask what the most dangerous thing is about Caesar salad. I got very sick on it once and I will never eat it again.
Oh, great question. So a lot of people don't realize if you're on a diet of some sort, the last thing you want to eat is a Caesar salad because it's like eating 3 Big Macs. A lot of people don't realize that has the most carbs and calories. You think you're eating a salad and you're good. You're not. But there's a few things that go into making, especially if it's a homemade Caesar dressing, there's egg yolks. So there's raw egg yolk in that, along with shallots and anchovy paste, along with other, various ingredients. But those 3 things are probably, it was held at an incorrect temperature. I've talked about this before in the temperature danger zone. Sorry, Canadians, I'm giving this to you in Fahrenheit. But anything that's over 41 degrees and under 135 is very dangerous. So you need to have everything super refrigerated or super hot. So when you reheat your food, like say you went to Cheesecake Factory or some restaurant, name any restaurant, and you want to reheat your food, it needs to be reheated to 165. So my guess, Gertrude, is they had the salad dressing at an incorrect room temperature and it developed a foodborne illness that got you, would be my guess.
It was nasty. There's a funny story behind that, but I ended up in the hospital that night.
Oh, no.
So I'm sure with an IV in each arm and a bucket. I'm sorry you went through that. It's foodborne illnesses are no joke. And I'm sorry you went through that. I just wish most people took it more seriously than they do.
Gertrude, was a painting in the room talking to you?
It was not, thank goodness.
Okay.
She probably had Nurse Ratchet talking to her instead. But yeah, that's hilarious about that painting. That's going to make me laugh for a long time.
Well, thank you, Donna. I'm so glad you could make it tonight.
My pleasure. It's all your fault. You're the one who suggested it. So thank you for thinking of me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Yeah, and special thanks to Donna for short notice. One of our guests that was scheduled for today, her paper was delayed and she can't talk about it till the embargo's over. So we had to reschedule, and Donna graciously jumped in as our science guest tonight. So thank you again, Donna.
My pleasure.
Which I'm so thrilled about because Jason, you love food safety.
I love it.
Because your degree is in dietetics and food safety, and you love food. And did you tell Donna that you have like an incredible palate? And then to pay for Christmas gifts, you were part of a study. And so what he would do is he was a beef taster. And so he would go taste beef once a week, and they loved you because you were able to detect if it was like souring or what have you. Did you tell Donna about that or no?
I don't know if
he did not, and that is fascinating. So was this Alberta beef by chance, and it was the beef growers of Alberta that was doing that to you, or was it all across?
Yeah, I went to university probably at a time where there was a bunch of unethical testing of students there. So I made a whole bunch of money by being a human guinea pig in a bunch of different experiments. And they were, it was for tasting atmospherically controlled, like it was, like the packaging where it has an atmosphere in it. And so it doesn't last forever, but it lasts like way longer than it should. Like sandwich meat, but it was Alberta beef. And they put a call out. It was big money. It was like big money for the time to be part of the study, but you had to pass the palate test. And they only took 10 people out of, there was probably like 700 people. And I got to the top score for palate. Like I had to say, this is salty, this is sweet, this is umami, or whatever like the savory flavor is. And then I had to be blindfolded and they gave me different things. I had to tell them what it was. And I guess I got it all right. But long story short, they had this beef in different atmospheres and I had to rate it on a scale, this very complicated scale. Yeah. And
that's amazing.
Yeah,
is this during Mad Cow time too?
No.
Is that why you're a little off?
No, no, I don't have any. I don't have any Creutzfeldt-Jakob's disease prions in my brain.
That's an awesome story.
Yeah, I'm missing a lot of it, but the end result is I was able to buy Christmas presents for Chris. So,
well, that's the most important, right? So, yeah.
I was a student, I had no money.
You have to find a way when you're in university, and we were poor, starving students. So,
well, I got fed.
Yes,
bits of weird tasting beef. We're gonna go over to Liz.
Yes, it's Liz's turn.
Hi, Liz.
I think Liz is teaching. I don't know if she can talk.
Sorry, I just dropped my phone.
I was like, somebody just tried to kill her, and we need to call Magnum PI right now.
No, I'm not teaching tonight. So I had two questions to kind of circle back to one that you mentioned about the dented cans. So UPS sucks. And
it does.
They delivered my cat food and they gave less than 2 cares about how they handled it. So out of the 60 cans, 56 of them were dented, or my cat's going to die if he eats it.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I already totally parent them and emailed them. They're sending me new ones. But other than that, I don't have cat food until then.
That is a travesty. There's some packages I sent up to Canada and the Northeast from Buc-ee's that went Pony Express for some damn reason. So I'm a little upset at UPS as well. But if you get their customer service and if you raise heck on Twitter, because if you call them, they honestly, I feel like, don't care. But if they're getting blown up on social media where everybody can see it, they tend to answer you faster in a DM. And usually most places, like if you ordered it through Amazon or Chewy's, you'll have it in one day. But that's unfortunate for the time being because poor kitties. I've been known to do the tuna fish for the cats, and that's not really very good for kitties at all. So I'm like, here, have some broccoli, and let's see how that goes. And it doesn't go over very well. But I'm really sorry that happened. I'd be terrified to give my pet dented cans for that reason, because who knows what UPS's environment was in that truck. One of the things I teach in restaurants about food safety is I actually go out when the delivery shows up and I hit the truck with a thermometer and I tend to smell it to see if there's any like mold, mildew, or the AC unit in the truck is out. I tend to stick thermometers right in the middle of the produce before it comes in the back door, and I look for evidence of bugs. So what's that environment that was in that UPS truck or the plane or however, train or automobile, however it got there? That would terrify me a little bit as being a pet lover. And it's expensive. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and it was directly from the manufacturer too. That's the more frustrating part. Then my next question, I need you to settle potentially a long-standing disagreement in my marriage. So if you can back me up.
I got you, sister.
Is there a difference? And if there is, what is it between a sell-by date and an expiration date? I am frugal. My husband makes plenty of money. So if, let's say, it's the 19th today? If there's a best buy date or a sell-by date by 4/20, I'm probably going to eat it through next week because it's food. If it hits that date he tosses it because he said it's bad. Who's right?
You both are, actually. So, and I hate to be Switzerland in this situation, but again, it depends. Like somebody who's had a bad case of food poisoning, like Gertrude and Jason and myself, and you feel like you're going to die, those dates scare you. A sell-by date is the grocery stores drop dead. So restaurants have, like when we prep food, we'll put, okay, it was prepped on this day, it has to be used by this day. Now, if it's not used by that day, it's tossed. But it's different in prepackaged foods in a grocery store because the packaging usually takes the air out of most things. It just depends on what it is. If it's like alfalfa sprouts, which is scary, those are going in the trash. If it's mayonnaise, I think you're good for another week. So I get the frugalness of it, but when I say it's not a suggested date, it's not. So you're both right. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but there are some items that can stretch past the sell-by date. Cheese is one of them. So you'll see like mozzarella cheese or a block of cheddar or a nice goat cheese that you may get, like dill Havarti, one of my favorites. And I don't know if it's mold or dill. So if I'm in doubt, I throw it out. That's my little rhyme. And if it's lemon, it gets a lemon. That's my two things in restaurant world. But if you have cheese that has mold, you can actually cut around the mold. Don't make the knife go into the mold. You can cut an inch around that mold and you can still eat that cheese. Does that make sense to you, Liz? Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Or
well, I'm thinking like we have like soup that's been in a can in our pantry for ever. He's like, oh, the date's coming. I was like, it's soup. It'll be fine. Nobody's touched it.
yeah, canned foods are usually good. Like if there's no dent and no error to it, it'll say like sell by date. Canned goods are there for a reason. That's why doomsday preppers have a lot of canned food. And you get canned and jarred food for that reason because the air is taken out. So most canned goods are good for like a year. So you're right in that situation. But if it's a pre-made, pre-packaged, like say you go to, you're in Virginia, right? So like say you go to Wegmans, so, or one of your grocery stores up there. I don't know if it's Wegmans, Meijer, whatever y'all have. So you go to your, yeah, me too. Best salad bar ever, but salad bars are scary, so careful. But when you buy a pre-made soup that they have packaged in their own container, that one you need to throw it away. When it says used by this date, you use it by that date. Okay. But your canned goods, you're good. And frozen food is not a suggestion either. Most people think, oh, I put it in the freezer, it's fine. No, if it's not a good seal or if it's just in a Ziploc bag, that's no bueno. You get freezer burn and you can get food poisoning on frozen food too. So most food that goes in the freezer, if you haven't used it in 6 months, it needs to go bye-bye.
Okay. Thanks, but now you got me worried about salad bars.
No, the only thing about salad bars, and that's again, I mean, I would be that person if I went in and I'm like, hey, when's the last time you did a temp log? Right? Just because I'm that person. And I'm not Karen demanding to speak to the manager, but I am careful about that because like Gertrude talked about with her Caesar salad, making her super sick and going to the hospital. I wonder what that temperature is on that salad bar. And if there's good sneeze guards in place, and if people actually literally use the tongs like they're supposed to instead of their fingers. Like Chris was talking about somebody touching food. I can tell a story about Whole Foods here in Dallas. Well, I'm not here in Dallas, but in Dallas where I live. There was somebody that actually went to the soup part of the salad bar and grabbed the ladle and was sipping soup off the ladle and then put the ladle in the soup. I haven't gone to Whole Foods for a salad in a while.
It probably was the guy from Carl's Jr.
Yeah, he moved to Texas and pulled another set, or it could be his uncle. You know, it could run in the family. So I get a little concerned about any buffets or salad bars and how food is being held. I used to be the biggest buffet girl ever, especially as a poor, starving college student, and I would go and just be like, oh, hell yeah, because I'm going to get to eat all this food for $10.99. Am I out of my mind? I was, because these people will put food out there that wasn't cooked to 165 and they're hot holding it less than 135. And so there's just pathogens all over the place. So now that I've become a food safety proctor, I'm a freak about that stuff. I won't touch it. And I can't believe that I used to eat that like crazy back in the day.
Good. You just totally ruined.
I'm sorry. I was supposed to be a ray of sunshine and funny. I'm not supposed to make it sad for you. Sorry.
I eat like a 7-year-old. Everywhere I go, I get chicken fingers and fries. It's hard to mess that up.
That is a fact, because you have to cook it in a fryer over 350. So as long as that chicken's good at 165, you are winning for sure.
Well, thank you, food safety, Donna Craig. I'm going to tell my husband in the morning that I was right.
Oh, you're so funny with that food safety, Donna Craig. That's Jason's fault for sure. Good to talk to you, Liz.
Oh, thank you, dear.
Great questions, Liz. I hope it doesn't lead to more fights, though.
No.
Is Tracy next, Chris?
Tracy's next, and then we have Kathy.
Okay.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi. I just want to know, what breeds are your animals and why is it bad to feed a cat tuna?
So I have a cat named Callie the Calico. I know this is a fun fact that I'll throw out there. A lot of people don't realize all calicos are female cats. That is a fact. And 90% of all calicos are named Callie. I didn't know that when I named her that, so now I feel like a chump. But I have Callie the Calico, and I have Sasha the Husky. I used to have 2 Huskies. I had Moki and Sasha. Moki, unfortunately, passed away about a month after I talked to Jason a couple of years ago from liver cancer. But Sasha's quite the doggy. Doesn't bark, doesn't whine, doesn't talk, which is weird because most Huskies are very chatty. Mm-hmm. The only time I hear her is when the tornado klaxons go off or the fire alarm goes off. That's when she starts howling and talking to her ancestors. Otherwise, you don't hear her. She just breathes heavy in your ear, which is disconcerting at times too when you're sound asleep. The question about the tuna is, I was told by my vet that it's not really good and digestible for them. It's good to get fresh tuna, but not canned tuna, because usually most canned tunas are in a oil or a water base that may have a preservative. So if you're going to give your kitty tuna, you can spoil them and go get some fresh ahi tuna and grill it up for them and chop it up. And hopefully Ginger's not listening because she's going to get ideas.
Yeah, I had a calico cat. She lived to be 19.
Wow.
And her name was Freckles, though.
Aww.
And then, like, if I get salmon, I'll give him some, like, fresh salmon. But I haven't given him, like, canned tuna or anything. But I was just wondering about that for my current cat.
Yeah, it's something that I was told by my vet. But there is a pet food that comes in vacuum sealed pouches. It's called Cats in the Kitchen. And it's made by vets, and it's different fresh, like there's fresh fish. There's one that has like a tuna, lamb, and gravy. I don't know about anybody else's cats, but mine loves gravy. So that's why I think she's a Southern kitty. Probably has an accent much like Ginger, because if you live in the South, we cover everything in gravy. Yeah, cats. It's called Cats in the Kitchen, and they make a really awesome, like fresh fish, fresh duck, fresh lamb for your kitty cats.
Do they have a silver spoon? Cats in the kitchen with a silver spoon?
Oh, no, but that's a good one. You are full of the puns today, for sure. But no, they don't. But I think you should call their marketing department and sell that to them.
Ginger likes bacon bits, Chris.
Jason, I was not going to bring up those bacon bits, but I'm going to bring them up right now. So Adam, of course, is a little crow, and we were in Costco, and he wants to get everything in the store. Puts it in the cart. Mom, can I get this? Mom, can I get this? And there's these bacon bits that are in a sealed bag. I'm like, yeah, sure, you can get those. And Jason was eating them today, and I said, what's in your hand? What is in your hand? He's like, these bacon bits. And I knew that they should be refrigerated after opening, but guess where I found them? I found them in the pantry.
Oh, what?
Yep. There are these bacon bits from Costco. They're in a sealed bag, like a store-bought bag or whatever. And you open them and they need to go in the fridge. Please refrigerate after opening, in like bright letters on the packaging. And I found it in the pantry, and I just knew either Jason opened it today.
I didn't open it.
I'm going to ask Adam. I'm going to ask when he opened it and if they're like rotten now.
I didn't open it, but I had some.
I would say that they're one of the things that's kind of crazy about bacon is it's the one thing that can kind of sit at room temperature once it's cooked. I wouldn't advise it for very long, but that's not like, chicken that's been sitting out for over 4 hours, or, back in the day when you used to have your pizza in college and leave it out and then roll over in the morning and eat the same slice out of the box. And I know all of y'all are shaking your heads because you've all done it. It's a good idea that you refrigerate everything. However, if that one's out a little bit longer than 4 hours, you're going to be okay.
Okay. Jason's fine. He's not hallucinating. So I think it's
a tasty treat.
Sounds like you and Adam are going to get grounded, though.
You know who likes the pantry? Ginger.
Yeah, because
of course she does.
There's bacon bits
every
in there.
time the door opens, she is there like a dirty shirt.
Well, because there's probably cabinets for her to hide, but cats are weird. They can be the biggest thing ever and fit in the smallest spaces. So that I fits thing fits for kitty cats. But you see them get into the smallest places, like they are yoga masters, and how they can fit in spots. And it's a cool, dark place with high spots and hiding spots. So that's probably why she really likes it.
I think I accidentally dropped dog food on the floor when I get Beaker's food out. So I think that's what she's after. But I don't know.
She's very curious.
She is very curious.
She's going to be more dog than the dogs.
Yeah.
It's just a funny feeling I have. She's going to be cat dog.
I think so. Well, should we go to Kathy?
Absolutely. Sorry, I was monopolizing there.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi, Donna. And first of all, you are a bright spot on the internet. I want you to know on Twitter, you are a bright spot.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I find you as well. I mean, if we're going to have a fan forum right now, like most of the people that follow Bunsen and Beaker and Jason and Chris are bright spots and spread positivity. Paula is always complimentary. Liz is always complimentary. You are, for whoever I see you respond to. So thank you for being a bright spot in my day, for sure.
Thanks, Donna. So this question, I don't know if it falls in your area of expertise, or you might happen to know something about it because of your area of expertise. Are some people more prone to getting food poisoning than others? Because my husband and I can eat the exact same thing, and just at the beginning of COVID, I ended up having to go to the ER with food poisoning, and he was just fine. Thank you very much. And I know in the past, I am the one in the family that ends up getting it for some reason.
So that's a great question. In my experience, I am not an epidemiologist by any means. However, those who have had food poisoning before are more predisposition to have it again.
Explain it.
And then those who feel like Jason talking about his father with the iron stomach, you talking about your husband.
Yep.
Sometimes the environment that you are raised in kind of raises you for that. I don't know if that makes sense. I think, is that you who mentioned to me about the Thanksgiving turkey?
Yeah, I had tweeted to Donna that my former mother-in-law used to thaw her turkeys by leaving it out for a couple of days on the counter. And every single Thanksgiving, I was sick. Every Thanksgiving we had at their house, I was sick afterwards. But I didn't learn that until I went to work for agricultural extension in Minnesota, and the home economist said, "Oh my gosh, don't eat turkey that was thawed on the counter."
Well, you should never thaw anything out on the counter, period. So for those home cooks, you saw your parents when you were younger. I hate to sound sexist, but usually back in the 50s, your mom, or 60s, your mom was cooking dinner and would pull like a pound of ground beef or chicken out and thaw it on the counter. That is a major, major, major no-no. So anything that is frozen, you want to thaw it in the fridge. So in your mind, if I'm going to have ground beef, chicken, steak, whatever that's frozen, know how long it's going to take to thaw in the fridge. So most meats take 2 days. If it's a whole turkey like that, over 15 pounds, it's going to take 4 days. But if you're ever going to force thaw something, it needs to be under running water. So when you sent that to me, I had nightmares. I probably was talking to the painting in my hotel room, like Jason was, just thinking about it. But yeah, to answer your question, and I hope I did, if you've had food poisoning before, you're more susceptible to get it again. And, you think it's not like COVID, like once you've had it, you have antibodies. There's no antibodies for food poisoning. Yeah. So I'll just say that there is none. The best antibody for food safety is sanitize, sanitize, sanitize. Wash your hands and paws. Wash your paws.
Thanks, Donna.
My pleasure.
Can I ask one more question, Donna?
Of course.
What about eggs? People keep eggs forever. We've had this debate many times.
Eggs.
Who is we had the debate at your house?
Oh, wait, I had a grandmother that my dad fondly referred to as Ptomaine Gladdy, but she used to keep eggs and try to feed them to everyone forever.
So it's funny you talk about grandparents and people who have gone through Depression or World War II when things were rationed back then. There also wasn't pasteurization of milk and eggs. And a dairy would bring it to you. And if you think about it, when a chicken lays an egg, it sits outside until you go and get it. However, once it goes through that pasteurization process, it needs to be in a fridge. Because once you take it and it hits air, that is also botulism for eggs, but eggs carry salmonella if they're undercooked. There's like boxers and wrestlers, and you see The Rock like crack open 7 eggs in a glass and drink it, and I'm just like, ugh. I get the protein aspect of it, but that better be the coldest eggs on the planet. He just did that with. So again, asbestos stomachs, some people can handle that situation. I would never play Russian roulette because I had food poisoning before. Eggs belong in the fridge. And also eggs should never be above anything.
Okay. What about
eggs need to be on the bottom shelf.
What about the past expiration date, though? I know people that keep them for years and don't use them.
Oh, no. If you, if I think Liz is gone, so she would have won this bet too. Eggs you can hang on for like a couple of weeks because that's a sell by date. But after that, no. So a big test is when you crack it open. You can tell when the yolk starts turning or there's a tinge around it. You don't want to use it. So again, when in doubt, throw it out. Not years, not months. I would say at the max 2 weeks past your expiration date. That's
really helpful. I seriously, I was at a spa one day and women were talking about their eggs were in there for like 2 years.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, no offense. I go to Minnesota. That's my region. And there's a lot of farmers up there, and that's how they were raised, to save. And there's a lot of Norwegians and Swiss up there and Swedes. And they tend to believe you can hang on to everything, not just eggs, forever. And that's not true. Not with the genetically modified food and the pasteurization process that happens in this day and age.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I wonder if that would change the Disney song, though, Donna.
Which one?
Well, when I was a lad, I ate 4 dozen eggs every morning to help me get large. And now that I'm grown, I eat 5 dozen eggs, so I'm roughly the size of a barge. Gaston.
I knew exactly who you were talking about as soon as you said the eggs and grew large.
Yeah. Nobody gets food poisoning like Gaston.
No one spits like him. Yeah, no one spits like Gaston. Yeah, true story.
Nobody gets food poisoning like Gaston. Nobody pukes like Gaston. Nobody has bloody diarrhea like Gaston.
Yeah, that's going to happen for sure. We should rewrite Disney songs for the slightly depraved. It'd probably sell really well.
Okay, it looks like we are exhausted. Our people with questions. Oh, Kathy, there's one more person, I guess. Chris, do you want to bring them up? They'll be our last person with questions tonight.
Yep, it looks like Kathy L is connecting.
Perfect.
There we go.
Hi, Kathy L.
Hi. I actually pressed request by mistake, and I keep doing that every time I listen to these pet spaces. But no, I did have some questions. You just kind of glossed over about the eggs and being at room temperature. So I'm glad you answered that question. But what about in berries, when you buy berries and you open up the container and only one berry has just a little bit of mold around it, but all the other ones look fresh and perfect.
Mm-hmm.
What should you do then? I mean, should you just toss the whole container or just pray that you're not going to get sick on the rest of them?
So good question. I would toss the moldy berry. I would get a colander and wash the crap out of those berries. But I would start,
right.
And this is going to sound really naughty, but I would start touching and feeling the berries. You want to make sure they're firm, not soft or squishy. If they're soft or squishy, toss the whole box. But if you notice, and this is another fun fact, but if you notice, those berry containers that they come in have holes in them for a reason. It's not for the air; it's so you can wash the berries in that container.
Oh,
it's like its own little. It's like its own little drainage system.
That its own little colander.
It's like its own little colander.
Wash the berries, and you're supposed to wash the berries in the container.
Yeah, it's not supposed to. It's there for a need. So, most people grab berries and they take them to work, or it's their lunch in their lunch box. So it's a quick way to freshen your berries up by grabbing an ice cold bottle of water, pouring it over it, and the water just drains right out of it. Hopefully, you washed it before you put it in your fridge in the AFBT wash. But if you didn't, that's one of the reasons why there's holes built into that. So you can do a little wash and it gets rid of any of the water or juice that's hanging out on a berry.
So, and then the wash you just mentioned, you said ASBT.
It's A as in Alpha, F as in Frank, V as in Victor, T as in Tango. So it's an antimicrobial. Yeah, it's an antimicrobial fruit and vegetable wash.
Great. This is like packed tonight with valuable information.
Oh, awesome. I'm glad. Yeah, and those you can find at any grocery store. I know Arm & Hammer makes a really good one that's a spray-on. There's a few that you actually wash. I'm sorry, I thought I looked off for a minute. Technical difficulties for me. So one of the things about that, it's very valuable. Like I said, especially how many of you guys turn on the news and you're raising your hand at home and you see, oh, there's a listeria outbreak or there's a salmonella outbreak from romaine lettuce or sprouts or strawberries, and it'll say this brand, and it's usually contained to a certain region of the U.S. That happens, which is the Southwest. But it's also good to know where your produce is coming from. Like you can ask your grocer, you can ask them, hey, is it from the state? Where is it shipping in from? Most of those produce people are super happy to talk to people about that, believe it or not. Because instead of just talking, if you notice when you're in the produce aisle of your grocery store, they're the ones that tend to be the most chatty.
Well, gosh, thank you for all of the information that you shared tonight. It's been enlightening, to say the least. So
awesome. Well, anybody who wants to reach out to me and DM me, I'm more than happy to answer questions. If Jason and Chris want me to come back and talk food safety once a month, I'm happy to do that too. Things change rapidly where food safety is concerned. It's kind of like, I hate to use the COVID thing because we all just went through it. Mask, no mask. Sit down, twist, do whatever. Use sanitizer, don't use sanitizer. You're going to hear, it's ever evolving. And Jason can probably speak to this from the science side of going to school for this. It's always ever evolving. Nothing is stagnant in science world. Because if you're stagnant, you're dead. It's always evolving and you always learn, and there's something always new to learn, and there's always some killer bug that's coming up trying to get you. So I'm always happy to answer anytime. And if y'all come to Texas, I'll feed you. So like I said, I can throw down in the kitchen.
Awesome. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Hey, I'm glad you accidentally pressed request to speak, Kathy. That led to a great question and back and forth. Donna, I found a sound effect for you. You ready?
Oh, no. Yes.
Look at this. Look.
That is what Chef Ramsay would say if I tried to cook a beef Wellington.
I can only imagine, and I can cook, and I would be terrified to cook for him. I still think he would yell at me. It takes a special person to own restaurants. I've had people ask me, would you ever own a restaurant? And I'm like, no, because it's super hard. I would own a food truck because then I only need 2 people to work in it. I can take the business to where it is. I'm not stuck in a place. Yeah. So that's what I would do. But I would be terrified to cook for Chef Ramsay. Now, I would love to cook with Anthony Bourdain and just chill and eat and drink wine and tell stories. Now, that would be more my cup of tea.
Yeah. Well, Donna, thank you again for being a short notice guest today on Science Chat. I really appreciate that. Yeah,
and I think we would love to have you again. Mm-hmm. I'm now thinking about like food that's kind of global going around the world. And I'm thinking of like black widow spiders that come in it. And
100% brown recluse and the maggots and cheese. Oh, I'm down. Let's talk.
Because there's so much more we could talk about. So much more room for activities. That's from Stephanie.
Well, I have one fun fact about restaurants that a lot of people don't realize. If you eat with a bigger fork, you tend to eat less food. if you eat with this is a true story. You can look it up. So if you eat with a smaller fork, you tend to feel like you're not making a dent in your food, and you eat faster and eat way more food. A bigger fork will cause you to slow down.
Nice. I'll bring a pitchfork next time we eat out, Chris.
Okay. Okay.
That's awesome.
I'll bring my tiki torch, and then we'll look like
what?
Well, Chris, I would love to talk vegan food and vegetarian sometime, because I do dabble a lot on the chef side of making a lot of vegan food. I don't have a cookbook like our friend John Rush does up there, but I do have some pretty awesome tofu recipes where somebody who's a meat eater in your life would have zero clue that that's what they're eating.
Oh, Jason would know. Jason would know with his palate. He can sniff that stuff. Like, it doesn't matter how
it's come a long way since the first veggie burger I ate.
I'm just saying, you're talking to a Texan who's like, just take the skin off the cow and sear it and we're fine. So, I get it. But I was vegan for a lot of years too, which a lot of people who know me are like, really? And I was, but yeah, I've got some great little vegan recipes and eggplant Parmesan pizza and stuff that I'd love to share with you sometime.
Hey, that'd be cool. I'll reach out to John and maybe we could have a couple vegan, vegetarian people to come in the space at the same time. That would be kind of fun.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, he's talented, but he's like a fat kid with cake. He makes stuff that I'm like, oh my God, if I ate that, just looking at it, I gained 20 pounds. And, I'm not a professional athlete like him who can just walk down the street and be fine. But he's got some delicious stuff, and he and I have talked about how to photograph food. For cookbooks and stuff. So down.
That's super good to know, because I also have to watch what I eat. Otherwise bad things could happen or undesirable things. So that's good to know about the caloric intake, because that's right. He's like, I eat 4,500 calories a day. And I'm like, wow, that's too much.
I've seen him eat mountains of tater tots and no big deal. And he walks around the wedding dress. If I walked around that wedding dress, I'd be, hey, Donna, we got to talk. So
I think if I walked around in a wedding dress, Chris would want to talk to me as well, too.
Well, you can get away with it because of Comic-Con. So I'm pretty sure you can drop the Comic-Con thing.
Oh, that's
true. I
true.
Can't. So just say it.
That's true. Okay. That is true. That is coming up in 2 days. I am so excited.
I'm excited for y'all. Can't wait to see the pictures.
Yeah, we'll take lots of pictures. All right, we'll wrap up the space. Donna, thank you again for being a guest tonight. I so appreciate it.
My pleasure. It was awesome talking to everybody instead of waiting for a few months like the last time, and actually hearing voices and questions. But like I said, anybody want to DM me, they're open, and I'll chat with you about anything, anytime.
Well, we're going to close out our space tonight. Thank you so much for being our guest, Donna. Special thanks to all the speakers who came up to ask great questions. Thanks also to everybody in the audience who listened. You could be many places in the world, but you're here listening to our space. That's one of the things that's really cool, is the community that shows up a couple times a week to listen to stuff about science and stuff about pets. Next week, we have a astrophysicist as our guest, and it's going to be a special time because he is from Sweden, someplace in Europe. I'll have to double check that. So it'll be midnight for him. So we are going to be running Science Chat next week at 6 p.m., a little bit earlier. This Saturday, we do not have Pet Chat. So there's no Pet Chat this Saturday. We are at Comic-Con all day Friday and all day Saturday. So we were going to reschedule it, but we just decided, you know what? Chris and I are on holidays, so we're just not doing Pet Chat. We'll have to catch you the next week for Pet Chat. Chris, do you have anything else to add?
No, I was just going to add that, but you are always so eloquent and organized with things to add. But I just really appreciate everybody coming. And I do want to give Benny a shout out because the Waffle Mountain arrived today, along with the cute little stuffy that smells like Benny, and both our dogs were like, what?
Yeah, that was cute.
That was really cute and awesome.
That's why I get on the Bird app for stuff like that. That was awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was today. It was a great day, and thank everybody for coming to our space. And I know I learned a lot. And I think food safety is something that we don't want to take for granted. And we need to take care of ourselves healthy. We stay healthy and not sick.
I agree. All right. Thanks, Donna. We're going to close things out.